Hey everybody, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Hello.
Good day.
Hello.
How are things?
Oh, good. Fulfilling. That's an interesting thing too. People ask me how are you, all that, and I'm like, well, I have a very fulfilling schedule, and they just kind of look at me like I have two heads. They're like, because they don't understand what that means. And a while back, I got away from saying I'm busy. I have a busy schedule because that just sounds like so heavy
Overwhelming.
and overwhelming. And how important am I and all this? And so when I say, and it sounds kind of daunting and a little bit of struggle. But when I say I have a fulfilling schedule, when I say it, like typically my eyebrows go up and I feel this excitement in me because it is a fulfilling schedule because everything I'm doing is fulfilling. Like I enjoy it. Is it a lot? Absolutely, it's a lot, but I'm doing okay with it. So it's fulfilling to me. And so when I explain that to people, they're like, oh, that's a good way to say it. So even they see the positive side of it without me even pointing it out. So there's that.
I could see like someone looking at you because that's like as soon as you say it, you stop to think about it because it's not what we normally hear. And
Yeah.
that's what's important about how we use our words and recognizing how we've been using our words, right? So that's awesome. I like it.
How about you?
Well, we started to talk about, I'm not sure,
What?
huh?
Roll with it.
Yeah. We started to talk about like initially I had group coming up this weekend and I got my grandsons playing ball. So it's like wanting to be there for all that stuff and then totally rescheduling my calendar and then just, having conversations around home. And it's like, why are you canceling group? That's something that you love doing. And for me, it was just because I just wanted to make sure that I'm accommodating because we have our group that our meeting that we meet up on Sundays and my grandson's ball games are
Oh, I might want to edit that out.
ball games are on on a couple of Saturdays and it's like it's right during group. So and it's I'm at a space in my life where it's important. Family time is important. And before when I was growing up, I grew up with a mother that worked two or three jobs, part-time jobs to make ends meet for her family. So that's what I knew. So I always knew that I had to work. So I missed out on a lot of functions, a lot of family stuff. Even when my kids were little, there was a lot of times that I missed out on that because I was afraid I was going to do something wrong by not being at work. And I wasn't honoring the family or honoring myself. And now I'm learning to honor myself. And it's even like trusting and having faith. So even for you, I was like, well, I'll send you a message, and if we can do meet up on Saturday early before I have to go to, I say, see the words right there. I just started to use where I have to. I don't have to. I get to go watch my grandson play ball, and it's his first game, and it's awesome, right? And I'll be there for all games, but it's recognizing all these words that we use for our daily activities. Because when you say those things, when you have to do something, that feels daunting. We've had to do things. We had to go to school when we were kids. We had to do whatever. There's things that we had to do. These aren't things that we have to do. Just like you saying, I have a fulfilling schedule. That's so light and airy, and it could be whatever you want it to be. It's open for your imagination to create whatever you want. And to me, when I say have to, it doesn't. There's no creation there, but so I get to go to this game. So I thought, well, I'm just going to leave it up to the world. I'm going to leave it up to the universe. If it's supposed to happen, then it'll work all right for you, and it'll work all right for other people. Because it's short notice too. Like I'm doing this on short notice. I let everyone know, hey, this Saturday's canceled. I've got my grandson's game. And now when I say these things, I'm not like, oh, I can't make it because I'm not making some excuse. I'm just saying, sorry guys, my grandson has a game. That's important to me. And it's not even so much sorry, right? So going back to words, thank you guys for waiting around and wanting to still show up for group. So because they still do, and they're going to show up tomorrow on Sunday because you were accommodating to do this on Saturday instead of Sunday. So it's like there's so many things unless you voice or ask someone, the what you've got already is a no. And if I ask you and you say yes, it's like, okay, well then that opens the doorway for everything else. And guess what? I've been talking to spirit, and it's like the regular daily activities that I'm doing is becoming not so much fun anymore because it's like Groundhog Day over and over and over again. So this is another way that things can switch up. And I'm not doing, maybe I'm not having a day off, but I have things that I'm doing on different days. And that kind of changes things and makes things exciting too. So
Okay, so before we go any further, just a quick plug-in for what your group is. It's not that I want to continue conversation about what you guys do or anything, but just give everybody a heads up about what it is, so in case they're interested.
oh, it's just like a very open group. We're like-minded people that come together with conversations that we're having right now. So if you're hearing our conversations now, it kind of goes along that basis. There's no, gosh, I don't have any rules or regulations in the group. I've got people, it's like they get worried about showing up late. I'm like, just show up. It doesn't matter what time you come in because it's always divine. We get so caught up in wanting to control things and wanting things to go a certain way that I don't do that. It's like if you show up at 11 o'clock and you got to leave at 11:30, okay, come in and get your hugs. See you later. It doesn't matter, but we're just there for conversations about spirituality. We could be talking about channeling. We could be talking about mediumship. We could be talking about just experiences that you had in life, addictions, just whatever comes forward. It's always fascinating and fun because it's whoever's there in the group. That's the information that needs to come forward at that time, right? In that time space reality. So it's just like-minded people coming together and having conversations
Yeah,
for a
awesome.
couple of hours every other week, every other Saturday
At
or
this
Sunday.
time, at this time,
Yeah.
charge for it. Is that still true?
Do what?
At this
Oh,
time, there's no charge for it.
no, there's no charge for it.
Okay.
It's just a space. I mean, if people want to donate or whatever, I don't ever stop anything like that. But it's never been a conversation. It's just to be open. And now I have another friend that's sending. She's like, she has a group that's coming together this next month, and she's sending out an invite. So I'm not sure exactly what that's all about. But it's like, to me, it's like more of these like-minded groups just happening wherever.
Yeah. And if it is in person, just so people know, it is an in-person group. And if you're interested and you live in the area, then just leave a comment or with this video, or send Bev a private message so that you guys can get hooked up, and she, can exchange numbers or whatever you want to do. So I just wanted you to explain what the group was. So
And it's out of my office, right? It's out of the office over off, the Rainbow Diner area. So
the massage room, and it's super, the energy in there is amazing, and I always love going in there when I have appointments and classes, so it's worth it. So I want to go back to what you started with is doing things that are important to you, and asking, right? You had to ask, hey, Amy, can we do this earlier? And of course, it's up to me to look at my schedule and see, and if I have the opening, and it's very funny because the day before, I was actually after recording today, at 11. So we started at 9. So at 11, I was supposed to go teach a class in an in-home class. And that just means it was a private class. It was by invite only. It was not a public, announcement. So anyway, there wasn't enough participation. And so the girl who was hosting it sent me a message, and because this will be the second time, people are like, yeah. And then it comes down to it, and then no, right? So she was feeling distraught. And because this would be the second time it was rescheduled, and then people not wanting to show up, even though they said they would. And so she's, I can feel her angst. This was all through messaging, and I could feel her angst about it. And I just sent her a reminder, and I said, it's okay, because maybe one of us or both of us need to be available for something else that's going to come up on that day, on Saturday. It's okay. and it's learning to have faith and trust. And I'm not kidding you, within minutes after me sending that to her, you text me. And I
And
said, it's all okay. It's like, that's where I'm at with myself. When things shift, okay, well, what is that making room for? What do I need? What is it that I possibly need to be available for? Or even Bev needs to be available for, or this host needs to be available for. And if we would have been tied up in that class, or tomorrow for tea time, doing it on Sunday at our usual time, there may be, because we don't know the whole dynamics of the universe, it's way too overwhelming for us to understand all that, and the intricate maneuvers and pieces and parts to that because our energy is always creating, and we're emanating that out into the universe. And so you think about all the, I'm going to use the word manipulating, because it's a manipulation of energy that we're connecting to each other for things to happen. And great, I'm doing tea time today, class got canceled. What is that making room for? What is the universe creating? Because that's the way I see it. I'm like, what is the universe creating for me? What am I co-creating with the universe about? What's going to transpire right now? Interesting thing is, for a couple weeks now, I'll just be honest, I am not the greatest housekeeper. Not, I do my best because I have a very fulfilling schedule. So I'm like, for a couple weeks, I'm like, man, I really got to do, like, I really got to clean my house, right? And I've been thinking about that and thinking about it. And of course, I'm looking at my house every day and I'm thinking, gosh, I really need to dust. And so maybe that's what I was doing. I was creating space so I have a day to clean and get caught up on things. And so this is part of that co-creation process. Bev's like, oh, you know what? I got this game I want to go to. I go see my grandson play. And then this class got canceled. I'm just like, my weekends opened up. Just saying. Like, I have less commitment, but I have stuff to do. Right. So maybe that was me creating that space. So, but we all are participants. That's the thing. We're all participants in this. Maybe the host has something she's been thinking about that needs to get done, or, again, not knowing the whole dynamics of the universal arrangement. And I'm going to say this, but it's not to instill fear. But what if some kind of situation arises and it needs her attention? There's that, right? And she's available. So we don't always know why. But when we learn, here's the key word, when we learn to be flexible and roll with it, amazing things can come out of it. So that's my experience. I mean, I've been experiencing this for quite some time, but two people in the same day, isn't that interesting?
And it's so much dynamics too. Could even go into the party with not party, but with the gathering. Even for me, like, so if I go to a gathering and maybe everyone says they're going to come and then nobody shows up, it's like, what is that mirroring to me? So that's a time for my personal reflection too, right? It's something for me to look at, because sometimes that happens. How am I keeping my word for myself? But it's also not being tied to anything. It's like, how am I being more flexible? How am I being, like, in the flow of things instead of trying to control things, still wanting to have this group come together, and it's like, it's not working out, but it's like, for you, I know that you're on the go almost nonstop, it seems like, because you have a very fulfilling calendar.
Right. I'm very blessed.
But having that very fulfilling calendar, like having the space, is awesome too, because sometimes we don't make the space for ourselves, but we have a desire within inside of us. And that's kind of stands true when you would hear Esther Hicks talking, or Abraham talking through Esther Hicks, and talking about how, how we have our schedules and how we have our routines, but there's like a process to everything. And it's not necessary for us to try to control the outcomes of things, but it's to kind of be there along on this journey, to kind of be open to the flow of it all. I was going somewhere else with that, and I kind of like.
That's okay. I'm gonna while you're gathering your thoughts. The other thing I want to point out too is, what if by Bev scheduling changing the class to Sunday, that there are people who can't attend on Saturday, and they're like, oh, this is a golden opportunity for me to go.
But that is true. Yeah.
So maybe there's more people than what's been typically showing up, or fresh new people, right? So
Yeah.
so it's like, I understand, I get when people, and I used to be this way too, people get very rigid in a commitment, very rigid. And I understand making a commitment, but I also understand the dynamics of the universe.
Yeah.
And that there's like I had already pointed out, what I've already talked about is, to me, I'm like, everything happens for a reason. So if this is meant to be this way, if this is meant to be changed this time, then there's a reason. There's something going to come out of this. There's, for whether it's for me or Bev or this host, whoever it's going to affect. Maybe it's the people that can't come to Bev's group on Saturday. They get to be there on Sunday, and it's what they need for now. Like, this is where they're at in their life, and they need that support, and they're excited about being able to show up and receive that. So flexibility is super important. And I feel like when you hold, so when I make a commitment and I have to change it, there's a lot of things that come up with that. That could be, I'm inconveniencing somebody because I need it to change. I'm not feeling good enough because I can't show up when I said I would, right? It's just another reason to beat ourselves up about it. What are they going to think about me if I ask to change this? So there's judgment, criticism, right? So there's that path that we do when we're living in that very rigid space, and still holding ourselves in a space of not good enough. I'm just like, listen, if I couldn't have changed my schedule for Bev to do this today, I've done it before. I would do solo, or we would say, you know what? Well, maybe we could do it Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. We've done that too. So it's like, there's always room for shifting and changing and maneuvering, and it's okay. But that's life. Life comes up. Life gives us these things to help us be flexible and to shift. I mean, here's the biggest shift that had to happen in our lifetime that I'm aware of so far is COVID. And when everything shut down, and listening to all these multi-millionaire influencers who do personal development, who are on stages every month and with huge amounts of people, and they couldn't do that anymore. They had to think fast. How am I going to reach people? How am I going to get money to pay my bills? How am I going to continue this work that I do? Whatever their story was, doesn't matter. But that was like the biggest shift that people had to take to still be able to reach their communities, to reach out to people. And that's, we all know, because we're doing it. That's where Zoom came into play, or video outreach, right? They had to know how to do that. They call it pivoting, how to pivot like quickly, like right now. These people had events that had been planned for probably over 2 years. Tickets sold out, stadiums sold out, and everything got shut down. All of them had to pivot, every single one of them. But what I will tell you is, I'll guarantee you this, and I know it for a fact, is they had a support system. They were calling each other. Hey, what are you doing? How are we going to do this? How are we going to change this? What are we going to do to reach people? Right? They had a support system. So that's another thing. Like, Bev and I support each other. We understand what we're doing. We understand our schedules. I understand family's important to Bev and all that. So it's okay to ask, and it's okay for me to change my schedule as well because of whatever else might come up, whatever I'm making room for. So
it's all growth. That's the way I look at it. So like, regardless if it's the mirroring, regardless of like every single phase of its growth, or even maybe trying to control it and realizing we don't have control over these things and just letting go, right? As soon as we let go, it's like everything kind of flows for us. Things kind of shift, but every single part of it's been an opportunity.
right.
All of it, with me being flexible and still having group, because I enjoy having group. I enjoy it. It's beneficial. Even if I'm the one that's sitting back in the background, watching how everybody is kind of moving through with each other and having different perspectives. There was one time, and I say this because it's like perspectives are different, are good. There was a time I would say, I'll never go and get chemotherapy or radiation. And then I had a gal in group, and she says, you know, she was a nurse, and she says, I had to decide, this is what felt right for me to do. And it's like, when she said that, it's like I had to take a step back and take a look at what I was saying, because I wasn't being neutral to it. I was pushing against it, first of all. And so for me to step back and recognize that that's exactly what I was doing, but that it doesn't have to be in my experience. But at that particular moment, I was no longer resistant. I was, after she said that, because I got a different perspective, right? From my experience, I gained this, I'm not doing that. It's not good for you, blah, blah, blah. But it could be, you know what I mean? It's just how we look at something. We can sit and look at all these foods that are being delivered to the stores that maybe we might perceive as contaminated or not exactly what we would eat. But what happened to our blessing of foods? What happened to our raising the vibrational frequency of things, and instead of being in the state of what is? Like, we think that that's how it has to be, when we can shift things. We can always shift things. And just having the perspective of what we were talking about today, even to your little class being, I say little class, to your gathering being canceled. It on the up. I always tell my clients all the time, don't feel bad about canceling. It's always about divine timing. And it's like, sometimes in our experiences, when we say, yes, I'll make it, I'm gonna come, because in that moment, our soul's like, yes, we're gonna go do it, we're gonna go do this thing. But we get into our headspace, right? When we're not into the place where we're at, where we're listening, we get into our headspace and we find a million other things that we could be doing. So instead, like, oh, I've got the house to get taken care of, because we can put that on, we can go look at that from a different perspective. I got all this stuff to take care of. I don't have time to go for this. I don't have time for myself, right? That's kind of what that's saying. And so it's like, that's why when I say all of it's growth, all of it is, every single piece of it is, even us having this conversation is growth for me to even look at things. So then this last group that I had, one of them was talking about tough love. And I don't know if I brought this up before. Tough love when it comes to drugs and addictions and all that stuff. And the other person's like, no, I don't believe in tough love. I don't believe in that tough love, but I don't believe in enabling. So there was like a difference, like there was a different perspective. And as soon as she said that, I was like, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because we can get into this ideals of everything's black and white, and you know what I mean? There's no gray in between, but there is gray, because there's different perspectives to each of the situations. From everybody's perspective, it's different. Someone else could bring in another perspective of just what we're talking about right now. And it opens us up. And for me, that brings me into a neutral space. And I've always said, or I have said for a very long time, if we become in a neutral space, we have nothing more to learn from that experience. So then it doesn't need to be there anymore. It just falls to the wayside, because there's nothing for us to gain from that. We're already neutral to it. We've already moved past it. We're not emotionally attached to it. We're not emotionally having a reaction from it. It's awesome. But all that being said, all that stuff is just gauges. It's just gauges to let you know where you're at right now. Are you being flexible? Are you being open? I was like, oh yeah, I've just got to have time for myself. Well, but getting together with everybody is time for myself. So it's back to the same words when you first started the whole conversation. It's about you. What words are we using? Like, are we saying we're having a fulfilling calendar? Am I having joyful visits with everyone? Yeah, it's just a matter of what words are we using, because those words have energy. And even if we don't even mean to do something like that, we're almost like dampening our own energy when we say some of these things about things that we like to do. So it's like we create this own duality within inside of ourselves, and it's not necessary. But again, that there's a learning in that. It's recognizing that that's happening right now, or it could be happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah, what also was coming up as you were talking, and it's not anything you said, it was just information coming to me, was that, and I'm just using this as an example, so, and I know you can understand that right now, is that um Bev could call me or text me and say, hey, can we change this? And I say, yeah, okay. And then a couple of weeks later, hey, can we change it? Yeah, okay. And then that keeps happening, and then I'm like, oh, why do I always have to change my schedule? Why am I always accommodating Bev? And then that starts forming some resentment. And when that resentment starts coming up, and then that leads to some anger issues, right? And so that would affect, if I'm having that kind of energy in me, that's going to affect our conversation for tea time. That's going to send, and that energy is going to be in that recording, in that conversation. Bev definitely will pick up on something's wrong, but because I don't know how to use my voice and speak up and say, hey, then I'm going to hold that in. But even holding that in, that's going to emanate out into this video, into a video, if we were to have that conversation. And then that goes, people, I mean, it's going to depend. If people are picking up on that energy, they're gonna watch the video. People aren't picking up on that energy, they're not in alignment with that type of energy, that video won't get watched. And it's the same whether we're having an uplifting conversation or a heavy conversation, and people are in alignment with the energy of the video and the energy of us, because it's our energy going into the video, then that will determine who's watching. Now, that also would put me in a victim mindset. Poor me, woe is me, feel sorry for me, I'm right, Bev's wrong. And I could conjure up all kinds of stories in my head. And the thing is, I never had the conversation with Bev, right? I didn't know how to use my voice. So I'm using that as an example, because we also do that too. Because I've had those conversations with people. In fact, I had that with a client just recently, and she said, I feel like I'm being a pushover about this relationship, and I'm always doing what he wants me to do. It's about a separation and divorce and all that, and they have kids, and I just feel like I'm always accommodating him. Well, first of all, you make a choice. You need to be okay with that choice. That's first and foremost, because you're making that choice. It was my choice in how I responded to Bev. It was a yes or no question. Can we do tea time tomorrow early? It was a yes or no question. And whatever I answer, I have to be okay with that. That's my responsibility. That's not on Bev. And if I say yes, because I'm being a people pleaser to accommodate her schedule, even though it's going to inconvenience me, and then I have some resentment about it, that's my responsibility. That's not on her. I'm the one that made the choice. So when somebody asks you to do something and you go ahead and say yes because you're people pleasing, and then you're feeling used or walked all over or taken for granted or whatever that case may be, you're the one that said yes. Just saying. Okay. So there's that side of it as well. And I just want to bring that as that has nothing to do with me or the way I showed up in this conversation, just so you know that. But I do need to use that as an example so people understand that that's the avenue that we can take when we say yes to something. Even though deep in us, we had this was something, right? If it's not a hell yes, don't do it. And I have somebody tell me that, because they asked me to do something and I was standing there and I was like, my people pleaser wanted to say yes, but I was holding back. And she's like, I can tell this isn't like a hell yes for you. And if it's not a hell yes, then don't do it. Don't commit to it. And she totally let me off the hook by saying that. I was like, oh, thank God. I was like, oh, I didn't have to tell her no. And that was all great, because the people pleaser still shows up in me sometimes, but I also know, hold on, I need to see how this feels. I mean, and really what it was, there was two instances that happened with the same person asking me to do something. One was teaching a certain kind of class, and um, it was one of those things, like I knew I could do it, but I also knew I couldn't do it from the way I teach. Right. And so that's what was holding me back. And that's what I was processing in my head. And she's like, if it's not a hell yes, don't do it. Just tell me no. It's like, okay, no, I don't feel comfortable doing this. And then the other one is she wanted me to teach a class with a room full of kids. I stood there and I was like, my people pleaser wanted to say, yeah, I'll do it because I had to do with meditation, all that. But in me, just so you know, a room full of kids, not my jam. It's not my thing. Some people can resonate with kids and do great. That's not me. Don't call me to do things with children. It's not my thing. And so I was very hesitant. And she's like, it's not a hell yes, don't do it. Say no. And I said, okay, no.
Which
But
is
it was,
awesome.
yeah, she's the one though that had to let me off the hook.
Oh, gotcha.
Right. So
Yeah.
even though I really wanted to say no, I was
And see,
having
that's,
difficulty saying no.
and I understand that. And I think probably most people, that anybody that's listening probably has and understood that at some point, because it's true. We do that a lot. And this is just like, even you, it's like, for me, it's like sending a text message gave you the opportunity to sit and think about it, to check your schedule, to see if that's even, because for me, it was like, I wasn't in a space of, oh God, I got to change. Because if you couldn't, we would have just done our recording tomorrow morning, and not a big deal. No big deal at all to me, because that was the message from the universe that yes, I should change it to Sunday or not change it to Sunday. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I kind of left it out there as like, okay, well, I'll ask, and if it works out that way, then I'll change this. We'll change the schedule. So it was, for me, I was just kind of like flexible in the whole process, and just waited to see how the universe, like, does the universe want this to happen? Because for me, I feel like if it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen, because I feel like the universe is orchestrating all of it anyways. Like, even us having the conversation, can you do this today, was orchestrated, because typically in the past, I wouldn't have bothered you because I wouldn't want to bother you, right? I would never have asked because I wouldn't want to bother you. But it's to be in that space, and it's being, like you said, being okay with your decisions, but take the time to think about your decision before you say yes, before you make that commitment. And that would tell people, yeah, because our people pleaser came out, you know what I mean? And it happens. And if it happens and you recognize your people pleaser came out and you change your mind, you don't want to go, then you contact the person and let them know that you're not, just exactly how things played out. But there's always a bigger reason, and we don't have to know why, right? It doesn't have to be the fear thing. But like you said, there's been times where there was a time not that long ago that I'm in my office and it says cancel group. And I'm like, what the heck? Oh, I don't know what that meant. So it's like, well, I can't end up canceling group because I heard it twice. I don't go for the third time these days. I got, I got the message on the second call, right? But it's like, but then recognizing maybe it saved someone from an accident because they would have made sure they were going to be there, or there's such a bigger picture from things, and it's not to hold on to it. It's just to let go and just go with the flow, be in the flow of things. I have been more in the flow of things. Like, this past week, I played with my granddaughter. We played in the wash, and it's like we had all the dirt moved around, and just we were out there for hours. I totally lost track of time. Like, I can't remember a time that I've lost track of time for that amount of time. Like, never even thought to look at the time, to look at my phone. And of course, we're in March now, and it's like the lights staying lighter longer, right? The sun's staying up longer. So you totally lose track of time. And I did. But by the time I got all done, I'm sitting at the end of the night, and everyone left, and I'm like, God, I'm freaking tired. Like, my everything was hurting. But it was the most amazing day. And it wasn't just because There were so many factors. I'm grounded. I'm being grounded. I'm outside. How often do we spend time like that? And we don't. I was on my hands and knees, dragging around the sand, not with gloves on. I took my shoes off. We buried my feet, and then we buried her feet, but she likes to bury the feet to, maybe not realizing how good it makes you feel, but she was in such a great space, great mood. I was in a great mood. It's just, those are the kind of moments to just write them out, right? Milk them as long as you possibly can and be in that space. And then also now it's to the point where, hey, grandkids can start staying the night, so we can spend more time together and we can run around out here and they can feel what it feels like to be with peace and ease, and the TV's not running because we don't watch TV. I mean, I'll turn on something for them, maybe, most of the stuff I don't even have like on our Fire Stick, but all the stuff that we can watch stuff, but we don't sit and just watch TV. It's just not, we're always doing something. We might be playing a game, we might be reading books, we might be coloring, drawing. There's like so many different things we could do, playing with the dogs. So it's like all these other things that we're doing, and it's like an opportunity for me to have the experience of them staying the night, honestly, and then to have how is it going to be the next day, making the breakfast together, spending all that time together. And it's mindset, right? It goes right back to the fulfilling schedule. I mean, really, it's the same thing. I could look at that as daunting, like, oh my God, they're going to stay the night. And I hope this isn't, we can go through all the stories that we've ever experienced. This could be a possibility. Or it can be just like, this is exciting. What does that look like? How is this going to show up for me? And not trying to control it at all.
Right. And that's a big word too, is control. My hubby's leaving. Is everybody wants, or not everybody, because I'm kind of relinquishing those reins, is everybody wants to control everything. And it just stems back to well, in childhood we didn't have control. We didn't have control. It was the adults around us. Do as I say, not as I do. And we had to behave in a certain way. We got in trouble, everybody knows all the stories. And so then we become adults, and that's where, like what I was saying, is become very rigid. And it's because we feel like we have control over something for the first time, so to speak. But I mean, in reality, we know we don't have control, because even so, Bev could have asked to change to this time, Saturday instead of Sunday. We did it an hour early, so we're at 9 instead of 10. And I could have said, yep, and all that, and then showed up and she say, oh, something came up, I can't do it. Like, I don't have control over that. She doesn't have control over things that are happening in her life. She just gets to choose how she shows up. And so I could be like, oh, okay, well, now I have a choice. I either go ahead and do a solo thing today or tomorrow in my own time frame, or reschedule. Hey, okay, well, if you can't do it now, you want to do it on Monday or Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, again, going back to that, or just do it by myself, because maybe my schedule is full, and this is, rearrange stuff so I could be here today so that we could get this done, because I love doing it with Bev. I prefer to do it with Bev, but I'm very capable of doing it by myself as well. And so, there's just so many dynamics to a situation. But when you think you have control over something or someone, you better take a step back. You better rethink that strategy, because 100%, 1000%, you don't have control anything outside of you. Nothing. So I just want people to understand that. Again, I just want to reiterate to you, Bev, that any of the negative stuff that I'm saying about this whole dynamic of showing it is nothing that I'm feeling inside of me. I just want you to know that. But I definitely
I feel what you're saying. I mean, I understand it. That's the difference, right? That's the difference between when you're standing in your truth and when you're not standing in your truth. I can feel you. So like you were saying before, if you would have came into this conversation with the animosity and those feelings about like, oh, this is out of my control, all those feelings, then it would have felt differently. But none of it felt like it was just a story. It was had nothing to do with me.
Right. And I'm just using all of this as an example for the different avenues that could be taken over one situation, and
Yeah.
one person saying yes. Right. And
And that's important.
right. And this whole control thing, boy, people gotta who, I'm in a position now where I have a full-time job, and it's a lot of politics, a lot of political stuff around me, which is very interesting because I'm not a political type of person. I just want to say, like, before this job, I can't tell you last time I read a newspaper. I really can't. It's been like years since I've read the newspaper or watched the news. I watch the news, don't read the newspaper. But because of the position I'm in now at work, I do read the newspaper because, first of all, it gets put on my desk and I have the opportunity to read it if I want to. It's not that I have to, if I want to. So I'll skim through it to see what's going on, because a lot of what's going on pertains to what I do and where I'm working. And so also, attending city council meetings. This last week, I went to our state capitol for a day. I mean, just all these things that are happening around me. And again, that was me saying yes to the job. But here's the thing, it has broadened, just like you having that conversation about chemo and radiation, right? This has broadened my thought process. This has given me other things to look at and contemplate and witness but also recognizing just the control, how controlling people try to be is, oh my gosh. And here's what I know, I used to be that way. And it's a great indicator, right? When I look at them and how unhappy they are, and how much struggle there is in their life, and their addictions to things, whether it's smoking or alcohol or drama or whatever it is. And I can look at that and go, it's not mine. It's not mine, and I don't have to get caught up in it. So to be in that environment every day for at least 8 hours, every single day, 5 days a week, and be like, don't pertain to me. It's not mine. I don't have control over this. I have control how I show up. Like every day I get to do a check-in with myself multiple times a day. I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that happened. What are we going to do now? Right? Instead of getting all caught up in why it happened, who did it, what, right? The drama of it. It's like, okay, well, it happened. Here we are. What are we going to do to change it? What are we going to do to move in a different direction? What are we going to do to pivot? What are we going to do to, what solutions do we have? Right? And when you are in a room with somebody who is controlling and addicted to drama and all the things, it's a huge check-in for me as to maintaining my energy. How am I doing? How am I doing with this situation? What am I learning? Like, it's every day is a constant for me. What am I learning from this? How am I showing up? Oh, did I get caught up in the drama? How much did I contribute? Okay, we got to do better. We're going to have an opportunity to do this again in a moment. So let's get on our game. I have conversations with myself all the time, always having self-awareness. And do I get caught up in some of the stuff? I do. And then I'm like, oh, because I can feel my body. My body's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is not ours, right? Like my body, I'm tuned into it to understand and notice and recognize those uncomfortable feelings. And when my thoughts start going in a direction doesn't feel good, I tell you what, I'm on it. Like right now, it's not days, weeks, months, years. It's right now. We got to shift. We got to change our language. We got to change what we're saying and thinking about. We got to change how I'm showing up in this conversation, in this situation, because if I'm contributing to the drama, I'm not being a solution oriented person. I'm being a problem involved person. So if we're all doing that, Where's the solution going to come from? You can't, because you're stuck in it. So when I have that awareness, step out of it and have that internal conversation. What's the solution? Now the whole energy changes. And then I bring that and start shifting the energy of other people who's involved. Then things can change. So the control is only within yourself.
Yep. And you're growing throughout the whole day when you're doing all this stuff.
Oh man.
You're like neutral, and then all of a sudden you realize you're not neutral, and then you're like, oh, questioning yourself, because it created the desire to have questions, right? That's where the Esther Hicks would say rockets of desire, right? It's no matter what we're experiencing right now, it's creating rockets of desire. It's creating rockets of desire to what you would desire in the situation. Even if you don't know exactly what it is, you just know you want something better than what it is right now, which goes back to our last recording, is how can you get better than this? Like, no matter where you're at right this moment, it doesn't matter if you're in a good place or what you perceive as a bad place. How can it get better than this right now? And then something that is interesting, I was talking to one of my very, very good friends, and she was telling me that, oh, I was working out, and she said, and I'm not promoting getting high or any of that stuff. I'm just saying, I'm just using this as an example, that she'll go to the gym and she'll get high. But she said that she noticed, because she was high, so it made her step back, and like, you're already doing it naturally, but it made her step back and pay attention to how she is being while she's in this environment. And she recognized that she's doing this weight, and she could feel all the tension in her body, like all the stuff. And then she says, once everything started to calm down and she started recognizing, she said, I relaxed. She said, I was able to go up by like 30 or 40 more pounds, and it was almost effortless. And it was just it was enough for her to slow down, because sometimes people's minds don't slow down enough for them to see things. So for her, meditation is great, and I'll promote meditation. But for her, this is what she was doing, and it took her into the mind space, to me, of similar to meditation, where she was seeing things, seeing herself going through this, and then really realizing how much we're resisting. How much are we resisting on a daily basis? Honestly, how much are we all bunched up? Even though I've gone through so much of my own growth and my own healing and letting go of control, right? Because we do, first of all, if I'm trying to control everything, that means I have an attachment to an outcome that I don't, maybe it could be even better than what my attachment to that outcome could possibly look at. So for me, it's like letting go of it now, just letting go and going along with it. And then I'm tuning in again to my intuition and stuff like that. Almost similar to my really good friend, how she's noticing these things, but she was saying them. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, just to stop and see, when we're resisting anything in our life, it shows up in our experience, which kind of goes along with our conversation, what you were saying earlier. Then it comes in, and then you might feel talking to this, because this is something I recognize. I might be talking to the other person that's across from me, and it's like, I'm throwing my hand over my solar plexus. Like, and then automatically I'm recognizing that this energy is not feeling good. But at the same point, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's obviously hitting a trigger for me. So it's creating questions again, right? It's creating questions because I want to be in a state of happiness, bliss, or joy, peace, whatever it is in that moment, because it's not always the same. Do I want to be in peace all the time? No, I like to be freaking excited and flying and feeling great, but I also like the peace too. So it's like, I'm never going to be just one thing all the time. But it's just recognizing all these things that are happening in our experience are for us, right? It's all happening for us, so we can stop carrying around that resistance. Stop holding, like, when she said that, it's like it can encompass everything in our lives, and it's like we've been resisting things since we were a kid because we were being told what to do. Oh, and then it comes to, oh, I have to do this, and then, well, I don't want to do this, and then we come up to these grown adult children. I want to say, because sometimes I've had my temper tantrums. Well, I don't want to go. I'm just not going to go do it. I'm not going. Okay, I'm just canceling. I'm not going to go. But recognizing where I'm at, was I neutral in that space, or was there still like some sort of a trigger? And it's recognizing that it's not good or bad, like all this stuff. And it's happening so much faster now that I can work my way through this, and then have the understanding, like, wow, we do have resistance. One of your ways in your body is knowing your shoulders start coming up. Mine too. I've got quite a few clients like, well, hey, seems like when this happens, this is what happens. Yeah, because how is it going to get our attention otherwise? Unless we set ourselves up to have this fulfilling schedule, how can we set ourselves up? And it's with our words. Oh, every time I start to notice any type of resistance within my body, I just take a breath in. I look at it. I have a conversation with it. I have questions about it, and it just falls away from me. It's like I'm just throwing that out there, but it's just different perspectives of ways that we can handle things or look at things, and then realizing everything is a gauge. Am I being a victim right now? Am I being triggered from my own childhood behaviors? Most of it is all childhood, right? Not my behaviors, but maybe the way my interactions were with my adults.
Yeah. When you were talking about your friend going to the gym, interesting enough, I was listening to a podcast today with Ed Milet and Brendan Burchard, and one of the things they pointed out was that and I used to do this, so, and it was actually a confirmation when I heard them talking, what they said I've been doing. And I'm like, look at me. Like, that was a moment this morning. I was like, look at me go. You get it, girl, right? But what they said was that they're talking about where they are and what they do when they work out. But let me hit on what was, not necessarily for them, but what typically we do. We have an issue in our life, and we keep thinking about it over and over and over and over and over and over, right? We stay in it. So we're stuck in the victim side of the drama of our life, and we keep beating ourselves up, and the shoulda, coulda, woulda, and I should have said that, or I should have done that. They're a jerk. Can't believe they did, right? We stay stuck in that whole entire story for years. And then just life's happening, and everything's happening to you, and life sucks and all the things, right? And we just keep reliving that. We keep it alive in ourselves. Well, what their conversation was, Ed Milet and Brendan Burchard this morning, what their conversation was, is when they're working out, when they're in the gym, lifting those weights, or on the treadmill, or they're driving, or, in those moments of solitude, they're thinking about their goals. They're thinking about what's next. They're thinking about how are they going to show up differently. They're thinking in terms of future. What's my next step in reaching my goal? Like, they're future thinking. They are not past thinking. And I have been listening to let's just say Louise Hay. I'll turn on a video of her for affirmations, put my little earpods on, and that's what I listen to while I'm working out. Or when I'm walking or doing a elliptical, I turn on a video that's about personal development or spirituality or something. That's what I'm watching and listening to. Or I'll turn on some music, and I will start thinking about the next class I'll be teaching, and or topics, or future thinking, and I was like, damn, that is awesome. That is an amazing feeling, because I also know what it feels like to be in a space of just beating myself up constantly, which it contributed to the suicidal ideations every single day, like not wanting to be on this planet. So to be in a space where I'm at now, where I am future thinking more, love it. I love it. And the other thing I wrote down while you were talking was, I heard this also from a speaker. I forget who said it, but they said, create a life you don't want to run or hide from. Create the life you don't want to hide or run from. That's what I was doing in my earlier years by using alcohol. I was running from my life because I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with the emotions and all the things. Now, because I'm future-based, I'm goal-oriented, I'm intention setting, I'm projecting that energy out about good health and prosperity and healthy relationships and all the things. That's exciting, right? And so I'm moving toward that. I'm moving toward a life I'm creating, not trying to run or hide from my life. So there's that. And so all of that, just coming to light this morning is also a great indicator of the progress that I've made in my life to be here to have this conversation. Because if I was still in my victim mentality, I would never hear this stuff. I would never internalize it. I would never check in with myself. And today I can say it felt great when they were having this conversation about working out and being what they're thinking about. It was like, yes, this feels good. This is great. And I'm so glad that I'm finally in that space because it does feel so good.
And then that just takes me right into being, right? It's because that's where my practice is right now. It's just being. It's being and receiving the guided information, being like even yesterday or whenever I had sent you the message, just to send the message and just put it out there. And if that's the way it was meant to go, it's meant to go. I was just totally open, and I was just in my boat navigating, right? And it's like, I'm just going to put it over. I'm going to go that way, but maybe the boat's still going to go to the left instead of to the right. And that's okay. Because it's, I don't exactly know the whole path I'm supposed to be going. The universe seems to have my back. And also recognizing, I listened to a person last night. He was talking about guardian angels. And I have been a little bit, I never really talked to my guardian angels or anything like that, or guardian angel. I don't know if we have more than one. I think that's an individual basis, I guess. I might need more support services. I don't know.
The more on my team, the better. Bring them on.
But it's to be in that space of gratitude, right? It's just being. So if I'm being right now, like when you put the headphones on, you're being right that moment. You're listening to that stuff, even though we're creating for the future. Creating for the future is the best way to do it from what I'm learning is being in that space and feeling what it feels like to achieve what you're looking to achieve in that goal, right? You're automatically changing yourself. So it's like, it's so exciting. It's so exciting what we're so capable of. And I feel like I'm just right on the precipice of this whole thing, like how we're creating and how I can create. Because just because I can create this way doesn't mean that everybody else creates the same way. Because we all have our own stuff. We have our dualities within inside of ourselves, our own ideals. And maybe we're not at a place where we can lay down the victim, you know what I mean? Maybe that still shows up for us or whatever. But I don't know, like all this is just fun stuff. This being is just fun stuff because we've learned, we know how to do. You and we can do, we could do all day long.
Yeah.
But it's just like, why are we doing it? And then what's coming out of it? And am I in that space of, am I appreciating what I'm doing right now? Am I appreciating what I'm capable of doing right now? This gratitude and all this stuff, and how this puts us in connection with our guardian angel and all this stuff. And he's like, I just summoned my guardian angel in. It's like, hey, I need your help. That's basically how he said, hey, I need your help. And it's recognizing, again, we have so much support services that are around us all the time. We're never by ourselves. And maybe it wasn't happening like this for me for a while, but it's like every time I ask for help or for questions, or I want to uplift my energy because I don't like the way how I'm feeling right this moment. Maybe I don't know how to get out of that feeling right that moment. I'm praying. I'm calling on God, and I'm calling, creator. I'm calling on my guardian angel. I'm calling on the angels. I'm calling on whatever comes into my mind at that moment, because we're not doing anything wrong. It's all divine. And then information is being loaded into us. And a lot of times I would be like, oh, well, I'm not going to I'm not talking to Archangel Michael about that, or I'm just throwing that out there, maybe not necessarily in that type of realm, but it's like there has been times where I would feel like, oh, talk to the Holy Spirits, like talk to my guardian angel. Like I didn't know how that all fit into play. And it's like, just don't have resistance, just be. And the information is going to flow right into you that you need. And even when you're like, you've got the brakes on, because I've had the brakes on a few times lately, like, nope, not doing anything, not going anywhere. This is it. But I don't, at the same time, how was my tones when I said that? How did I feel when I thought that? Was I in a space of gratitude, being? Was I planning my future? Because you are planning your future with everything that you're doing right now. But am I a willing participant in what I'm creating? Am I creating what I want to create? So it's like this whole conversation has just been about just really pay attention to you. Really pay attention to you. Take the time to listen and decide if you want to make a decision and join a group or not join a group. if you walk in and you like where you're at and it's great, great. And if you get in there and it's not what you really thought it was, what you wanted to do, you don't have to stay. Like it's everything's like flexible. It's like you do you, boo boo. That's what I always hear the kids are, saying to someone else. And it's like but it's true though. It's important for us to just honor ourselves and to listen to that. And it's not with an attitude or malice or anger or just any of those things. It's always from a neutral space or from a space of love. And if you're doing it from that, then it doesn't feel bad, because otherwise you feel bad because of all the thoughts you had. You never said anything to the person. You're like, I'm sorry, I just can't make it with. And you feel like shit because you had all these horrible thoughts that didn't even resonate with the person, had nothing to do with the person, but you put all this energy into it. It feels dirty. It just doesn't feel good. But I wouldn't have recognized that if I hadn't gotten to where I am right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, those are things that I would never have noticed how, and I say dirty, but it just felt lower, right? It didn't feel good, period. It just didn't feel good. So why was I doing it?
Right. And I'll tell you that the unhappy people, the people who are miserable, and we're not going to go into this conversation, I'm just making a point. The unhappy, miserable people are the ones that are people pleasing, being fixers, being control freaks, and haven't done any healing processes for things that they're hanging on to. And so they're leaning on the addictions of drama and substance abuse. And they're giving their power to that by saying, this is why I drink. This is why I smoke. This is why I do. Well, then you're giving your power away to all of that outside of yourself. And you can't control anything outside of yourself. You can only control yourself. And so when you decide that you are done feeling miserable, feeling heavy in your emotions, then that is a huge indicator that it's time to do something different. But the only person you can change is you. The only person you're responsible for is you, with the exception of littles. And the only person you can control is you. So it's time to step it up. Like I have these conversations almost every single day. And it is time, if you are not happy in your life, it is time to step it up and do something different. And the only person who can do that is you. So let's go. Let's go. It's time.
Yay!
So I'm just like, it's time. Okay. And I mean, that's what had to happen for me. I just had to get to a space where I was sick of me. That was it. It wasn't that I was sick of my life. I was sick of me. I was sick of how I was showing up. I was sick of how I was feeling, and I needed something different. And it started with me. So, and it keeps going with me. I don't walk through my life saying, oh, because he did this, I'm upset and I'm depressed and no, it's because I'm allowing it. It's because I'm choosing to feel that way. And so I am taking control of me, and I have no control over anything outside of me. And I know that. So it's a realization. And so when you're ready to step into that, listen to the video again, just saying. Go to the gym, get on the treadmill and listen to this again. It's going to be about a little over an hour. So just saying, stay on the treadmill, listen. All right, my friends, any final words?
Make a magical week.
Telling you. Absolutely. Make it magical. Make it fabulous. Make it amazing. Make it creative. Make it what you want it to be. Don't wait for it to happen. Right?
Yes.
All right, my friends, thanks for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amy and Bev. There was a lot of stuff covered in this video. Typically, as always, you could probably watch any video we've done, and there's a lot of content that we cover. So share us, right? Have in the sense of, if you're learning something from us, share it, talk about it, plant the seeds with other people. If you feel guided to, share the video, share the content with other people by giving them the link, texting them the link, emailing them the link. Also, we appreciate you for your time and energy, for being here with us, whether you're live or watching the replay. So with that, create an incredible week, and we'll see you next time. We'll see you when we see you. You do you, boo.
Bye.